talking about? You're talking about it one more time.
Should we wait until someone arrives for a moment?
Larry's trying to buy a popcorn machine online there.
Oh, that's my bad side.
Shoot.
All right.
Yeah, just hit the gavel.
So up here,
Yeah, take charge.
membership, no one,
Yeah.
by myself.
You're a teacher.
Oh, you want an action shot?
That's what I was saying.
We're going to call the March 20th meeting to order. Oh, did you get him? Did you get him? Good.
We're trying to build
We'll,
membership, so that's why it's like.
We'll start with the roll, please. Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Well, item 3, thank you, by the way. Item 3 is public comments. I technically need to read this if nobody, okay. So we'll not read the public comments unless you guys have any comments. Okay. All right, so no public comments. Consent calendar, we're on item 4. Consent calendar items are considered routine, will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion on the items unless the director requests a specific item to be removed. Would anyone like to remove any of those items?
I'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as written.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. All right, any further discussion on the consent calendar? Very good. So then all in favor of the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion passes unanimously. We are going to go ahead and approve the minutes. So item 5, February 20th. I'll give you a moment if you need to look through those minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for February 20th, open session.
Great. Motion and a second. Thank you. Any further comments? Very well then. All in favor of approving the February 20th minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'll abstain, I was absent.
Okay, we do have one abstention. Thank you. President's report. Okay, so that will be me. So I have 2 items. Start with the ad hoc committee met since our last board meeting, and a little bit slow in the process, I guess, but we're still anxious to meet. We have another. Hopefully, we'll be meeting again next month, and of course, the goal is to see if we can get that community center and the open space and revitalize the country club. I hope that's still in the cards. So we'll see. Then the other item is the executive session summary. So we discussed a series of contracts that will be coming to approval here in open session, and we discussed the I guess that's an issue regarding. I don't know if I can I say I can't say who it was about? Legal issues, okay. Okay, so we discussed some legal issues, and I think that was it. Did I do something out? I think I'm good. Manager's report.
The first item I have tonight is the dog park fencing. The former pump track on the south is being repurposed as a dog park. The area currently has a perimeter fence, but needs to be cross-fenced to separate the large and small dogs. 5 bids have been received. The costs shown are calculated for 250 feet of 4-foot-high fencing. There'd be 3 gates, 2 access gates, and then a large maintenance gate in the center of the cross fence. The project will be funded from exclusive use fees. The recommendation is to approve the bid from Golden State Fencing for $5,770. The Maintenance Committee and Finance Committee both approved this recommendation.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Any further discussion on the item? We'll take a motion.
Motion to approve?
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, great. Any further discussion? I do want to, I think it is interesting. I want to point out, I guess you're already seeing the tariffs that are coming down and impacting these things already.
Steel tariff.
Yeah, yeah.
So they say.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Okay.
Okay, the second item is sidewalks at the Greens Park. The Greens Park has 500 feet of sidewalk, which is part of the Phase 2 development. In 2017, the board allocated $15,000 for the completion of the sidewalk. In addition to the $15,000, $13,000 was allocated from the Greens Phase 1 construction as compensation for RMA labor. These monies, $28,000, are currently in the 2018 projects fund. I've attempted to get 3 bids for this project, and I received 2 back, and you can see where the third bidder declined to bid. The recommendation is to approve the bid from John Fisher for $29,500. And again, the Maintenance Committee and Finance Committee both have approved this recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalks at Greens Park's bid to John Fisher for $29,500.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Okay, the next item is the Escuela sports field fence. The Escuela sports field project was first approved in 2015, and that approval of $17,500 was allocated for fencing that was never installed. With the planning of the field in May, we plan to fence the site in April. The low bid is a Golden State Fence, which is offering a discount of $1,200 for the approval if both the dog park fence and the sports field fence are done at the same time. And so the original price was for $18,430. With the discount, the price would be $17,230. So the recommendation is to approve the bid from Golden State Fencing for 970 feet of 6-foot-high chain link fence. This would have 2 pedestrian gates and 1 maintenance gate at a cost of $17,230. The Maintenance Committee and the Finance Committee have both approved this recommendation.
Thank you, Greg.
I would like to mention that thanks for getting so many bids, because I know it's not easy to get so many. It really gives us a good feel for what the going cost is and what a good deal we're getting from Golden State Fencing.
I had to find a number that fit the budget, so it took a while.
And the price reduction is because they're going to be drilling the post holes all in one day.
I motion that we approve the bid from Golden State Fence.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I do want the public to know that these come before us in closed session. We do debate those in there, so that's why we don't maybe talk about them as much out here. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next one, Greg.
Okay, the next item is a Escuela Field retaining wall and concrete rolled curb. A retaining wall and new road concrete curb are required at the Escuela Field to create off-street parking. The wall is 190 feet long with 6-foot wide stairs in the center. The rolled curb is 215 feet long. Again, I attempted to get 3 bids on this item, but only was able to get 2. The project would be funded by Summerfest. The recommendation is to approve the bid from John Fisher for $30,900. The Maintenance Committee and Finance Committee have also both approved this recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion or a motion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the Escuela Field retaining wall and concrete rolled curb for the bid to John Fisher for $30,900.
Thank you, Cheryl. A second? Thank you, Stephanie. Any further discussion? Okay, and I do want to point out, Summerfest has been quite generous in providing these funds for the field up there. I think that's great for them to do that. It's much appreciated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, the next item is just a note of interest. The Parks Committee will be meeting Thursday night at 6:30 to take action on the Master Trail Plan, we hope. In August 2017, the board directed the Parks Committee representatives to accept this Master Trail Plan and to approve it at the next Parks Committee meeting. So again, that meeting is Thursday night at 6:30. I think the developer did put some banners up at the north and south entry to remind the residents about the meeting.
And I'm sorry, that's going to be here?
Here at the RMA building, yes. Okay, the next item is the playground equipment at Stonehouse and Stonehouse Park and Lake Clementia. The new playground equipment installation at both sites is complete and ready for ribbon cutting. And I think Rod's there's been some questions about the ADA access to both of those parks. And so Rod's going to speak briefly about that.
Well, for starters, it's important for everybody to know we put the playground fiber that we've put in both the parks, and actually at each one of our parks is playground fiber and is ADA compliant. So, there's certainly other things that we could put out there that makes it a little bit easier, but very extremely expensive to do the rubberized and so forth, and certainly doesn't last as long as what you might think. So, but what we do have is all ADA compliant. Today we poured the approach into the Stonehouse Park playground area so that you can get a wheelchair into that and it's compliant. There are 2 other pieces of concrete that need to be poured so that you can get to that ramp. Both of those will come off the backside. There's if you're familiar with the park site, there's a walkway with a little bridge that goes to the park. That bridge is at a grade that does not meet ADA requirements. So further up, we're going to pour a small little walkway that gets over to the concrete slab for the basketball, and that'll get you to the walkway where the ADA access is into the playground area. And then in addition to that, we're going to pour a small little walkway that goes from that same area from the basketball court over to the covered area so that ADA can get in, utilize that covered area as well. And then at the back lake, we have already poured that approach ramp into the play area. Now all we have to do is we're pouring a concrete walkway from the parking lot over to the covered area that we have there that's adjacent to the play area. And then we'll branch off of that walkway and come down the boat ramp side, if you will, of the play area with a 6-foot walkway that'll go to that approach so that it'll be ADA compliant as well. And of course, that's all just weather dependent. So it's not a real long job to do, but we certainly got to have 3 or 4 days of good weather. So
We've done an excellent job on those playgrounds.
thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you, Rod, and thank you, RanchoMurieta.com for the nice coverage.
And I'll be getting out a memo in the next couple of days to try to set up a ribbon cutting for those 2 parks. Set up dates at least. Okay, I think my last item, or second to the last item, is the notes from the Lakes meeting. Basically, we continue to actually, we had some people from the fishing club in attendance, and we talked a little bit about the fisheries in Rancho Murieta. And then we also talked about moving ahead with the dye project. There was some more unexpected costs as far as chemicals that have to be put in the lake prior to the dye going in. And so CSD is researching that. And then we also, again, asked them to research getting grants for the bioswales. And we did talk about placement of a future bioswale that would be constructed by RMA. Anything you want to add, Larry?
A couple of things, yes, thank you. The fishing club was kind of requesting some funds to stock the 3 upper lakes with fish, and after further discussion, we've kind of decided we need to do more research on what kind of fish we have and the volume of the fish, and we are planning to do our second stocking of Laguna Joaquin here with bass and bluegill, and that's planned for Thursday, shortly after lunch. And I can't tell you the exact time yet because I haven't got it from the company that's going to do that, and CSD is picking up the tab for that.
That's this Thursday.
That's this Thursday. The gentleman who runs that freshwater fishing company has agreed to help us do a survey of the upper lakes to determine what kind of fish we have, if we've got too many in one lake. The fishing club is concerned about feeder fish and not having enough to keep the population of the fish going well up there, and I'm guessing based on some other conversations with other people, I'm not a fish expert, but it kind of seems like maybe we have too many bass in one lake and too many feeder fish in another lake. So it may be netting and moving fish is the solution rather than restocking fish. So we're going to look at that, at some other things to help the fishing club with their task. And then the other task that this fishing group has requested is Rod was going to develop a plan for the bioswale or rain garden, and I think we've got some ideas, and before we have our next meeting, you'll have that formulated to present to us. Okay, good. That's all I have.
I have a question for you, Larry. The bioswale, I read about that. It looks good. Tell me about that real quick.
Sure. It would probably be an area that would be fairly wide. It would be in the drainage systems that come into the lake, and there's 2 major drainage. One flows pretty much 90% of the year. The other one flows very little, like only when it rains. But both are adequate to put a bioswale in, and those would be if you go up far enough in the drainage so that there's some topography drop in the contour of the flow of the creek, you can put these bioswales in where you dig out a pond maybe as big as this room, and that keeps water in it all the time, and all the low water flows through that's full of vegetation, natural vegetation, and it will filter sediments and nutrients out of the water and seep on through and then back into the natural stream. What the complication is that when you have high water, you don't want the high water to rush through and wash out all your vegetation. So you've got to figure out a diversion channel that bypasses this bioswale. Okay. And that's the complication that challenges everybody. They're quite common. The company I worked for many years used them to monitor low flow and ignore high flow. We just let the high flow run away. So they're not uncommon, but we didn't use them for vegetation control or nutrient control as we're going to try and do here. Another complication is it has to be dug out quite a bit so that you've got layers of different types of soil underneath that make this work properly. You can't just dig a hole and stick some grass in. It needs to be kind of engineered.
Okay.
So that's kind of the complication that we've tasked Rod with. But again, one of the things that one of the members of this group, Greg Wheeler, is a professor at Sac State, and he's been working with some people that he knows there. That there's a grant, supposedly a government grant, that has a fairly good chunk of money in it that we could tap against to build these bioswales. And we're hoping that we might be able to tap against those and get some funds to support Rod's efforts in making these work. There also will be a certain amount of cost in adding plants, because if we waited for nature to replant its own natural plants, we would be waiting years. So we want to kind of
Got it.
accelerate that project.
Thank you, Larry.
Sure.
Okay, the last item is the modular restrooms at Lake Clementia. We have reached out to ETC, Optimus, and Quantas. All three groups have expressed interest in the project, but no financial commitments have been made at this time. The first quote we had was for $58,575. I received a second quote for $46,590. This unit does not have a built-in holding tank, and the exterior finish and interior finish is not compared to the first unit quoted. And actually, Rod went to a trade show last week and ran into some vendors that construct these trailers, and I think you've got 2 additional bids coming from those guys, hopefully, 3 additional bids. And so I think probably one of the concerns is that I know the first bid I had is an 8-week lead time to construct the trailer, and so we need to get commitments from the groups if they're going to commit, if we plan to have these in place for this summer. And so hopefully over the next 30 days, the civic groups will meet and give us some feedback on what support they can give us, and I can bring a final recommendation next month to the board for action.
And if I understand correctly, you've got some ideas about the funding of the project?
Well, yeah, I mean, we would draw. We're hoping to have some funding from the civic organizations, maybe funding 50% of it, and then the additional 50% we would take from our future projects fund, and then replenish that fund next year. It'd be a discussion at our goals workshop in August.
I think this is an excellent project, and one we probably should have been thinking about a long time ago. But to expedite this, is there any way that we can whoever gets the bid, whoever the low bidder is, can we, based on the funds that we have currently available, commit ourselves to this so that they can get started with an 8-week construction plan, or is that kind of a no-no until we have all
I mean, it would probably, I mean, if we want to consider doing a special meeting in a couple of weeks when we got the final bids in, we could possibly maybe have a special meeting and take some action. Right now, I don't have it on the agenda as an action item, so we really can't do it tonight. And so we would need to have another meeting to take that action.
That still has to go through committee anyway, right?
It should go to the committee, yes.
Okay.
And on something like that, on this here, I'm not sure we always just want to consider the lowest bid. I think we should consider what we are getting, including in the bids. I mean, if we get a lower bid and it doesn't have a tank and the insides aren't as nice as another bid that might be a little bit higher, it might be worth the extra money.
Yeah, definitely. I'd recommend the 58,000 right now for sure. Yeah.
Anything's going to be better than a porta potty.
Do we want to set up a time that we can tour tour the restroom?
But, yeah, I think one of them, the 58,000 is South Carolina or North Carolina?
Actually, it's in upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Oh, I don't want to go there this winter.
All right, Greg, anything else?
That's it for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to committee activities. That's item 8 for those who are following out in the audience. Finance Committee.
Okay, the Finance Committee met on Thursday, March 15th, and we had lots of things that we had to approve at that meeting. So you heard all of them tonight, so that all the different contracts that Greg has filled us in on that we approved tonight were actually approved at our last Finance Committee. And it kind of occurred to me, as I was looking around the room at the Finance Committee, that I've had people tell me in the community and stuff like that, that they, even though we probably always should know these things, they don't really understand a lot about the fact that RMA has these individual committees that are made up of volunteers from the community. And so I thought that I'd like it to be a matter of public record, because my finance people come in, they study those contracts, they do their homework. They're really, really great committee people, and we really appreciate their involvement. And, Martin Pohl was a former RMA member. Frank Palmia has been around for a long time. He's very, very, very sharp on finances. He sits on the Finance Committee at the Country Club, as well as RMA. Jean Liu was our alternate, and she actually attended this meeting, and it was really nice to meet her. She's a younger representative on the committee. And I think, you know, all of us chair committees, and we make those committees up of volunteers in the community. So I think sometimes what somebody had told me was, oh, well, you know, it's just you board members that make those decisions. And I said, you know, we don't make those decisions alone. We consult a lot of people in the community to make our decisions before they, you know, come forward with approval. So I just wanted to kind of make that a public notice on that. And that was it.
Okay, well said, Cheryl, thank you. We're moving on to letter B, that's ARC.
And to reiterate what Cheryl mentioned, the Architectural Review Committee is basically run by Mark Parsons here of staff, and the members themselves have been there quite some time, and I can tell you for a fact that all I do is facilitate it. I have no input at all in their decisions. These decisions that we talk about here are strictly the community's decisions, and the same thing you're talking about. So anyway, we met on March 1st, and we had a timed appearance of driveway variance and a couple of new business. And Mark, would you like to go into any detail about those? Not at this time. Okay. We have a common area lease that we need approval on for lot 1166, and it's just a change of ownership, and I'd like to make a recommendation we approve that.
Okay, so there's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
And would anyone like to chime in on that? No further discussion, okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, motion passes. Anything else, Larry?
And apparently, the retreats, when they start a new, when they get their architectural review committee in place, it will need a member of our ARC committee on their committee. Greg, would you have some details on that?
Yeah, but actually it's the Rancho North, their association will be, I think they have actually formed their ARC committee. And so per the conditions of the MBA, the RMA will have one representative on that 5-member committee to give input on projects going forward within Rancho North. And so we don't really have enough votes to sway any decisions, but we do have a person there to give input and to bring information back to the RMA. And typically, last time we had appointed Sam Summers, but their committee never got formed, and so he never actually served. But they have recently contacted us, and they're ready to get moving on that. And so the recommendation would be to appoint Larry, since he's the chair of the ARC, to that committee.
So this is a voting member that we're sending over there?
Yes, he will be a voting member, but
okay.
a minority voting member.
And is that part of the MBA? That's part of the MBA that
Yes.
would happen?
Yes.
But it's our decision who we send?
Yes.
So do we need a motion for this?
Yes.
Larry, did you move, or do we need a
No,
motion?
I was going to make a motion.
Okay, please.
So I move that Larry Shelton be our representative for the new Architectural Review Committee for our Rancho North.
I'll second.
And discussion, I would like a discussion.
I don't know.
You have the floor.
Maybe there should be a test.
You're the man, Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
Just as I pointed out before, I don't feel like I'm an expert in architectural review issues, so I am going to ask Mark Parsons to join me as a guest and a consultant at all those meetings.
Did you clear that with Mark first?
No, I said it was Greg.
There probably won't be that many. Pretty small group.
Mark, you can decline to comment until later if you'd like. So. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
We need a vote.
Is that it?
We didn't-
Oh,
we
I'm
need to
sorry.
vote.
Oh, we haven't voted yet. Okay, so all in favor of Larry serving in that capacity, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Is there anything else, Larry?
That's it.
Okay, we're moving on to communications, which I was able to send in this month. Joanne, it's all yours.
The Communications Committee met on March 14th, and the first item on the agenda was Channel 2. I think this is as a result of something you brought up, Larry, a couple of meetings ago about bringing it back as the community channel. And we took a look at it and what it would take to bring it back and what kind of information. And sort of what we came up with would be like a PowerPoint presentation with community information slides that would play over and over and over every hour. And then we get a scheduling software that we could insert the RMA meetings. But we actually saw it as duplicate information, and with the cost that it would and the maintenance of setting something up like that, you know, we have our website, which is ranchomurietaweb.org, which has lots of information about the community, and also our community e-news has much more up-to-date. You know, I mean, if you're looking at community slides that say, please stop at the stop signs or get your variances, you know, something like this is much more informational to the community. So I just think there wasn't a lot of benefit to the community, and the committee agreed. So we are recommending that we make no changes to the Channel 2, including the menu. So that was our recommendation, and we can
Did
open
we
it
have
up
any
for
costs
discussion.
associated with it to
I
justify it?
anticipated between 3,000 to 35 by the time you got the server and the dedicated laptop, and then you had your software costs, and there would probably be music subscription costs, plus, you know, creating the content.
Sure.
And then, you know, updating, and we'd have to decide what we'd want to put there and what we're not. I just think this is a much more effective way. This was a great e-newsletter
Oh, I
that
think it
came
was
out.
good. That only comes out once every quarter, right?
And it depends, you know, I think when we get relevant information, because there's a great article on Lake Joaquin in here. And I think, you know, the more.
Who put that?
I think Denise puts this together, don't you? Oh, Darlene?
Yeah, but who decided to put that article about the lake? The committee did. What committee? The Communications Committee?
Lakes
The
Committee.
Lakes Committee. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Greg Wheeler and I wrote that, and that was the release of that was the public release of the information coming out of the Lakes Committee.
So
It was very good.
I have a couple questions about that I've asked before.
Okay.
So that is emailed out to people that we have email addresses for. So
That's
how are we
correct.
doing? How are we doing in getting email addresses for all the RMA members? Okay, you know that answer?
Well, no,
Oh.
but it's the second item on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't.
Okay,
Okay.
so basically, is there any discussion as far as not reviving Channel 2 and leaving everything as the same? That's what our committee recommended, and I'm just kind of, I don't think we have to take an official board action, because I don't think it was brought up that way, but it's open for discussion.
But I do think that there's we have a community here that has a lot of different people represented. And a lot of people don't get that email, that e-news. A lot of people are not necessarily attuned to getting things through .com or other mechanisms, but a lot of people used Channel 2 for information. And I've had a lot of people say, get Channel 2 back. And the reason that worked for a lot of people is they turn it on and it's just background sound, and they can observe it when they want to. And it also gets our board meetings up to date on there instead of once every 3 months. And so I think we still need to look at a way to communicate with everyone in the community in their different ways of communicating. I'm not necessarily advocating we go back to Channel 2, but it worked, and it worked for a lot of people. And so I think rather than disenfranchising those people, we need to figure out a way to get our information out to them. We still, I think, are missing a link to a lot of people here in our communication.
Well, I'd like to see us do some sort of a survey or something before we would just automatically assume that there's that many people. So
Well, and just so you know, I never did find the scheduling software. So that was one key piece that I never did find in the whole, creating Channel 2.
Yeah,
I never
and
could
that may
find
not be
that.
the right solution, because I think TV's kind of going away to some
Right.
extent. But I do think that we need to look at if we are missing some of the people in the community and how we can get them informed.
Second item.
Second item, your outreach.
Okay, our outreach tables. Well, and actually, we kind of see that as the dual purpose. One, we want to go ahead and make sure we do our communications committee outreach tables, so the community is aware of what our purpose is, and we're here to help residents that are having service-related problems with Greenfield or other things they can't resolve. They can bring that to our committee, and we'll assist them in trying to find a good resolution. And the second thing is we want to go ahead and bring our e-news information out to the community, make sure everybody knows that our website is ranchomuriettaweb.org. In fact, there's actually a Greenfield link on here that will take you right to their services site to where you can get to support, and it'll give you the information. But it also has all the information about architectural review. If you have any questions, do I need a variance, lots of information on our website. So we were hoping to have tables.
It's an unusual email address or
Web
website,
address?
My web dot, how did
Yeah,
we end up with that?
I'm not sure.
Because it's not something you normally would remember. I totally, I know it because I'm on the board, but I never knew it before that.
Well, and I know, it's our homeowners website and owners association website, and I think the more we keep saying it to the public, the more the information will get out there, and maybe they'll find it, and maybe we'll get that 40% we're missing, especially with our communications table. It's, everybody.
When it was first started, it always had the web in the address, the word web?
Probably,
You don't know.
because they're
Why couldn't it
really
just be Rancho
difficult
Murieta
to change.
Association,
I know if you Google Rancho Murieta Association, that site will come up, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, when you Google Rancho Murieta, you get multiple
Yeah.
different things.
I believe we have a member,
Okay.
a public comment.
If it helps, I just went there to Rancho Murieta Web.org. That comes up, but if you also go to ranchomurieta.org, it redirects you to web.
Does
I
it?
don't know if we own it or not, or someone's being kind, but it does take you to web.
Well, that's good.
But that's a cleaner address. I don't know if we own it or not.
The one time I looked, I got mail.ranchomuriettaweb.org or something. Yeah, it didn't go as clean as what you were saying.
Yeah.
That would be nice if it does, but
Yeah, but ranchomurieta.org might be a better one for us if we own it.
and if we own it. That part I don't know.
Ralph
I'm
says
not
that we
sure
do
where
own it, so.
Who does? Do
For
we?
for the viewers at home, if you could state your name and,
I apologize, sorry. Patrick Salo, we are 1160.
Okay. Thank you. Well, when I bring up the website, up in the little line, it's ranchomuriettaweb.org is how I found it, so. So that's what we're looking at, and it's gonna be mostly at, Rancho Murieta Association sponsored events, but, it sounds like we're gonna have movie night, we're gonna have different places. Maybe there'll be different places where we can just set up a table. And then we were thinking there's sacramentoready.org, there's Spare the Air, where you can sign up for, air alerts, that kind of thing. So different information that might be useful to the
So
public.
my initial question was, what are we doing to make sure we get an email address for every resident, at least as much as possible? What do we have now?
Well, I don't know what we have now, but our plan is to go ahead and start doing some more of these public
Maybe
outreach
staff knows,
tables.
can I ask staff about that?
Yeah, roughly when we sent out, this last email blast went out to 1,200 different email addresses. 1,300, okay. And there's two ways you can do it. You can actually, Colleen can input it, and then once every 2-3 days it gets uploaded into that database, or you can go directly to the website and enter your email address. So if you want to get the e-news, there's two ways to get registered to get that newsletter.
Okay, so we have roughly 1,300, then we have, 2,500 residents here?
$23.49.
$23.49. So, yeah.
I mean, we have only approximately 1,000 cable TV customers, and so actually the e-newsletter may be actually hitting more people than it would on Channel 2.
So is there something we can do to get the rest of the people? I mean, like I said, remember I talked about the fact that if we ever wanted to do any kind of emergency notification, CSD seems to have them all.
Yeah, well, Joanne, I think she's got the outreach. She's going to be doing tables at different events and registering people.
I think that would like to see that be a goal within a year, that, you know, that we have everybody's email address that has an email.
And then annually, like every October, November, we'll be sending out an information sheet to the residents verifying their addresses. We'll be asking them also to give us their email address.
I looked at that letter, it's not very, you know, maybe we could be really, really bold about it.
Okay, bold red print next
Bold,
year. Okay.
right, we really need your email address, you know, that. Okay, thanks.
And the last thing we discussed was some new policies and procedures for the Communications Committee. And basically, it's to let the customers know that, you know, to resolve your problem, probably the first thing you should do is contact Greenfield. That way they can start up a work ticket and, you know, look into your problem. If you find, and then we listed the ways of how to find their website in case you needed help. And then if you have a problem and you can't resolve it, you know, you're more than welcome to come to the committee. We'll be glad to assist you. And we'll welcome all residents with ideas or other business, and we meet quarterly. And I think we're going to be meeting next month because that's our regular quarterly meeting. But I wanted to go over all this other information with the committee members for tonight. So that was it for the Communications Committee.
And I appreciate the Communications Committee and their work. Thank you for letting me sit in last week, and I do appreciate you guys putting together that sheet for working with Greenfield. And I believe that might get on rm.com, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm still working on that.
Awesome, thank you.
It seems like over the past month, I've seen a lot on social media, a lot of complaints about Greenfield, not just about the service they're providing, but when they have an issue, the customer service. Are we addressing that at all? Are we looking at one point I saw there was a petition circulating for people that were having issues, so it seemed like it was kind of a hot topic for the past month.
Yeah, I saw, you know, I don't track all the social media sites. I don't track, you know, the next door neighbor, and I don't track Facebook. I track RanchoMurieta.com.
With
Again.
Rancho Murieta Moms had a petition going.
Well, and again, I mean, if you're really having a service problem, the best thing you can do is contact Greenfield, because then they can start to resolve it. You know, if we're glad to assist you as the Communications Committee if you have an ongoing problem that can't be resolved. I didn't really look at the issues they were having. We have been looking into the issues that were suggested on a lot of the websites, and you can be assured that, you know, we feel confidence in the staff we have up there at Greenfield. You know, we believe in working with them, and, you know, we'll just see where it goes.
I have an issue with them, and have had, and my basic comment about this is that, and I think the social media blog that I read also kind of reflected the same thing, is they tend to ignore the possibility that they are anywhere near the problem. They always say it's in the house, it's your wiring, it's your router, it's the signal coming to us. They use every excuse in the world as long as they can, and they're running out of excuses for me, because we've tracked down every one of them, except the signal coming to my house is not as strong as it was originally when they first installed it. Except they're kind of ignoring that, and I haven't heard from them for 2 weeks. So I don't think they're following through with people who are having problems. I think what they're doing is trying to ignore it.
And again,
and that's an issue. That's the issue. It's not the problem, because I was actually living with the problem. The problem is that they're not responding appropriately to understanding what the issue is and that it could be them. They're not recognizing
Yeah.
that they could be the problem.
And you have a work ticket open on it.
I've got one open, but it doesn't do any good. There's no one doing anything.
Well, see, and in that case, I highly recommend you come to the Communications Committee with your work ticket, and we can address it directly.
And I think that's the big issue in the community, is that people are having the same problem I am. And the problem is streaming during high times, during times when the streaming is used the most, Friday evenings and Saturday evenings. And they claim that the streaming is working fine on their end, and that we've never exceeded the 50% of the capacity, but they can't get the signal to me. So it's somewhere between the truth and me, is what it is. Because and I don't know if it's wiring, I don't know what it is, but they're not really addressing it. They're just ignoring it because they don't want to deal with it.
And I think, and this is only my second meeting, but in my first meeting, I think that issue had come up with someone else, and they were talking about it, and then they were talking about maybe it was something with AT&T or whatever. But, you know, if it's a specific issue like that, and, you know, you're not getting a resolution, you know, the Communications Committee is the right place to bring it.
And you have members from Greenfield
At our meeting,
at your meeting, correct?
yes.
I see there's
So they can talk to them
one as a
directly.
guest. Are they there are they there
Yes,
consistently?
they'll be there at every meeting that we know. Yeah, they're requested to be there, and they've agreed, so. So we actually have someone from Greenfield at our Communications Committee that can talk to you directly to try to troubleshoot or, you know, figure out what is exactly the problem is. And that's why, you know, that is what the main purpose of the Communications Committee, actually, is to provide that service to the residents.
Thank you, Joanne. We're moving down to item D, compliance.
Well, Mr. President, we met on March 6th, and to say the least, we probably had the biggest binder I've ever seen in my life. Three biggest problems: driveway parking, and I'll get to overnight street parking, and speeding. That's just an issue that I'll stay on top of. E-News, I want to make a comment. That was a great write-up that was nicely put regarding, you know, if you need a variance for a driveway, to reach out to RMA and to communicate with us, get with the staff. And also, the other part was, if you do get a driveway variance, that it's good for 1 year from the date when the letter was issued, so you have to renew it.
Well, thank you, Jim.
And then overnight street parking. For those of you who are .com savvy, just go on the internet, go to the non-architectural section, Rule 2, Section 10, and just read it, please.
Read it.
It's pretty simple. And speeding, I noticed tonight when we came in, whoever placed the speed trailer at the entrance after you get past the RMA building, fantastic location. Because I spent about 10 minutes out there just sitting in the car watching people go by. And I saw one person at 29, one at 27, maybe one pop 30, but everyone was keeping it right around 25, 26, 27. It actually set a good tone from the minute they get into the community, instead of how fast can I get home to cook dinner or take care of the kids or whatever it might be. I mean, you've got a long way, especially if you're in the back part of the community, so we just need to slow it down on Murieta Parkway. And then Larry brought up something that, well, Greg, with the MBA, looks like we have something going on with a joint committee. With Rancho North.
Yes, we have RMA and Rancho North. they're going to form a joint committee, and then those 4 members will pick the 5th member to handle any, if Rancho North people get a citation on RMA property, or if RMA residents get a citation on Rancho North property.
Okay.
So if it's that cross, those will be heard in that special joint committee.
Perfect.
So, and the motion is to approve Jim Crowder and Judith Embry as members of that committee, and Tom Reimers as the alternate.
So just to be clear, Jim, you have the privilege of chairing your own compliance committee, and then you have another one the same month. It's once a month they meet, or?
Once a month for,
Once a month or as needed.
Okay.
It may not
Yeah.
be that often.
Okay,
which is fine. And I think primarily RMA, we have more going on than RNA right now.
Yeah.
How did Judith Embry get nominated or volunteered, or how did that get?
She was one that we'd appointed last year,
Oh, okay.
and then change of board members.
And she agreed to it.
Oh, yes, of course.
Good.
So is that, are you making a motion there, Jim? Is that,
Yes, let's make a
Okay.
motion on that.
okay? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And is there any further discussion on appointing Jim and Judith? No further discussion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. What is, Jim, I do have a question. So what is the overnight parking? Because I'm not going to go to that. I didn't write down where I should go. What is, so what am I looking for?
It would be, here, we'll share this
Oh, is
with
it in there?
Yeah, it's in there. And in January, we had 30 violations, and February, 28. Driveway parking, 62 in February.
Okay.
I assume that's because they were the security was focusing on that.
They were following up and they were focusing, and I think we're getting things squared away.
They should, yes.
Yeah, they're doing a great job.
Okay, let's move on to letter E. We have governing docs.
We did not meet
Okay, let's move on to letter F.
yet, right?
Yet. Maintenance Committee. I think that's you, Larry.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, we met, and met on March 12th, a week later than we would normally meet, but we managed to have an awful lot to talk about. And I will brief these out, and Rod, please jump in if you would like to discuss any of them. I think some of them have already been discussed in the manager's meeting, in the manager's report. The Escuela Gate sports field fencing, the field retaining wall and curb, the sidewalk at Greens Park, dog fencing, Stonehouse post and cable. The expensive grass that we put in the soccer field at Stonehouse Park has had a certain amount of vandalism, or not necessarily vandalism, but inappropriate use with golf carts and various things. So we're going to put a post and cable low fencing around that to help protect our investment there.
And that, just to be clear, that was one of our goals for this year.
That's right.
It's a board goal.
Yeah. And it doesn't need any approval of any kind. It's already on Rod's agenda. We're just discussing that in our meeting. I suggested that maybe because of some of the activities that we're adding, that Stephanie's adding through the Recreation Committee, and some of the other people that, residents that we're encouraging to have different activities going on within our facilities, that we look at some additional picnic tables around that would be appropriate to use. And so I brought up the idea of having, in the future, having some picnic tables over here at the gazebo park area. And then Stephanie would like us to look at the idea of bringing back the community information sign on the north that was removed when the new gate was put in. There's the one on the south is still there, so Rod is working with trying to get the new billboard sign activated at the north gate here, to kind of advertise the different events that's going to be happening in the community this year. I've already discussed the restocking of the lakes, either the upper lakes with the fishing group or the Laguna Joaquin here with just adding more fish from the fish kill. And the rain gardens I've discussed. Greg mentioned the restrooms at Clemencia and the sidewalk, and we're moving forward with both of those. And then we had a discussion about a couple of trees that need Rod's attention, and the asphalt work. And so that was the basic summary of the maintenance committee, and I have no projects that need approval. And would you like to add something to that, Rod?
We did go out to bid for getting tree trimming crews out for starting some of the landscape tree pruning that we talked about and was part of our budget for 2018. And the way that it was bid out was for a crew of 4 with a chipper truck and a lift, and so an hourly rate, so that we can kind of control how much time they spend in each area, and that'll be Eco Landscape that will award that contract to, and they should be starting with weather, probably not this week, but they should be starting that pruning next week.
Boy, I just want to, I mean, is there anything you don't do? I mean, sorry, Larry. Are you
that's
done?
fine. No,
We've got,
and that is the summary of the maintenance activities for this month.
and I want to, real quick, if I can chime in, Larry, I think the letter board up front is a good idea. I think maybe we should bring that to the board at some point to look at, maybe we can do something a little bit better than what we've got there.
Yeah, Larry doesn't know it yet, but it's on the ARC agenda to start looking at.
Okay. So, but would that be a maintenance issue, or is that a communications issue? Or?
Actually, it should be an ARC
Okay.
because we want them to make sure that what we put in is compliant with what we do in the rest of the development.
Super.
I know a little bit of what we discussed was, I think Stephanie's pretty excited about trying to get that some sort of ability to communicate with the residents in the North Gate as quickly as possible for some of the activities she's got. And Rod and I talked about a temporary sign or a more permanent sign, and he was saying we could do a temporary sign within a few days, but we needed to run through ARC to start there for a design for something similar to the South Gate or using at least that concept. And so if Stephanie has some ideas about how she wants to advertise in the meantime, billboards or whatever, we're certainly.
No, we did discuss it in my committee, and the thought was, as we discussed already, that different people communicate through different modalities, so we need to be sure that we're approaching the community through the different modalities that people will
Did you think about a
utilize.
banner? Because I mean,
We
that's
did, Denise and I discussed that, so that's an option as well.
I mean, most people, most of the big groups have banners, and they seem to feel that really generates a lot of information for them.
You know how they all these pizza places have the guy that stands on the corner with the sign?
I think Alex said
You're
he
gonna
would be
volunteer
willing to
for
do that.
Enough scotch and I'll stand out there.
I'm not going to do it unless it goes through at least 3 or 4 committees first. Okay,
You're
parks.
trying to keep the committees solid, aren't you?
Parks, The Parks Committee hasn't met since last fall, but they are meeting this week on the 22nd at 6:30. So we'll be taking a look at the trail map, and that's our big agenda item that we'll be talking about this Thursday.
And that, of course, is open to the public.
It is.
And do you think you need some support to make this work, or is it going to just breeze right through? No, I'm serious. Should I show up?
You're welcome to have another meeting on your schedule if you're not too worried. I'm not too worried about it. We've been talking about this for a long time, so.
If Larry's going to be there, we'll have the clock up.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
All right. We're moving on to Recreation Committee. Stephanie?
Yes, so the Recreation Committee met on March 7th. It was a pretty lengthy meeting, and we had a pretty lengthy agenda to cover. Of note, I do want to make mention that the Recreation Committee will be meeting the first Wednesday of every month, so our next meeting will be Wednesday, April 4th. We discussed multiple events at this meeting that the committee would like to see move forward. The committee members are working hard to investigate multiple events, and we have a few items that are ready to move forward. So let's see, Denise, do you want to go ahead and talk about the 4th of July contract? The 4th of July contract?
The contract for the 4th of July is in your packet. It's recommended that the board approve the contract for $17,843 with Pyro Spectaculars, and that includes the fireworks and the permit that we have to pay Sac Metro Fire.
Is it really a 4th of July if there are no fireworks? I mean, so that has to happen.
What?
All right. So is that a motion?
Yes, please. So I'll make a motion that we approve the contract for $17,843 to Pyro Spectaculars to provide the fireworks for the 2018 4th of July celebration.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, so all in favor of the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes.
So one of the next items that we did discuss out of our committee was to offer the community a free movie night at Lake Comanche. This is going to be held on June 12th. The time is to be, I'm sorry, June 16th. My apologies. The time's to be determined. So included in your agenda is the contract for the sound system screen projector, and a couple other items that will be included. A popcorn machine and a magician will be present as well. So this went to the Finance Committee for approval and was approved. So we need a board action on this, is that correct? So I'll make a motion to pay the contract out of the recreation budget for the amount of $1,850 to AA Music Events for a free movie night for the community on June 16th. I keep getting the date wrong, sorry. June 16th.
I second the motion.
And this is the 3 different nights, the first one being on June 6th? Was that, what aren't you?
It's 16.
One night,
One night,
June 16th,
okay.
yes.
I thought I heard 3 in there somewhere.
No.
Okay. Free. maybe.
Free.
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 Okay. Is there any further discussion? And when do you envision us knowing what movie this is going to be?
We will be talking about that at our next committee meeting, so
Okay.
hopefully after that.
As soon as you have the slide made that you're going to.
All right. Yeah. Make the banner.
Not going to please somebody, you know.
All right. I'm sorry. Was there a motion and a second?
Yeah, there's a second, yeah.
Okay, great. All in favor of the contract, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Opposition? Okay, that passes.
Okay, and last for me, because our committee has been so busy and we plan on offering more events, I've had multiple people volunteer to be on the committee, so I'd like to recommend appointment of 2 new committee members, Elizabeth Barley and Julie Wheeler, to the Recreation Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I want to discuss it. You're making the prior recreation director look bad. I'm just saying. I don't know who it was, but you're making him look bad. I don't know what that guy did.
Who was that guy?
I have no idea.
I assume these people are gonna volunteer for different tasks, is the reason you put them on the committee.
That's the intention, is to utilize them for events coming up, yeah.
So we're not losing, this isn't replacing
No, this is
people.
augmenting, so that we're getting community members involved.
And how many members do you have now?
This will make 11, I believe?
We have a 13-member committee. Wow. Is there a number you're looking for in terms of how big you want your committee, or is there?
I don't have any specific number in mind. I feel if there's people willing to volunteer and willing to help and offer more events for the community, the more, the better.
And where do you think you're going to hold your meetings now?
At your house.
It's not any bigger in that room. All right, all in favor of the new committee members, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay.
I've got a couple of comments for you, or
On
just discussion.
Recreation Committee?
Yes,
Okay.
before you get past that.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I didn't know if you were moving on. Okay.
How's your slow pitch softball plan going with putting leagues together, putting teams together, and
We're in the process currently of developing a standardized set of rules. And so those have been developed. We're working on revising those, and then we'll run it through committee, and once the committee approves those, then I'm guessing we can go ahead with implementation. So I'm hoping for signups in April. Hopefully.
Do we have a defibrillator up at the park somewhere? Just off topic.
No, but it has been on my
Oh,
list
okay.
of thoughts.
I want to consider that.
yeah, seriously,
We have a bunch of ice packs on hand too.
we had when I
We
played
do
for
have another CPR course that we're
There you go.
when I played for the senior softball, they required that we have a defibrillator within 10 feet of the umpire.
We did, so years ago, I can't remember now, but we had, and this is probably where it came, but we did have a co-ed slow pitch softball Sunday afternoon league out there. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
It is.
So I can't tell you how many 40-something-year-old hamstrings got blown out going to first base. It was a lot.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, you don't have designated runners?
No.
And the intention of the softball will be to coincide with the food trucks out at Stonehouse. So around about the same time, draw more crowds out to the food trucks and support Summerfest out there, as well as bring the community together on Sunday afternoons, evenings.
And so you won't have to hire professional umpires. I am a certified umpire.
You're gonna have a busy schedule.
Yeah,
You need
you've been
more to do.
volunteered?
Yeah.
He needs more to do. Give
Did you
him
have
another
another
committee.
question?
We
for
can't
me?
afford you, Larry.
It's only Sunday afternoon. And I would like to comment about a couple of things in here. One is the spray park, and you were talking about changing the hours, looking at changing the hours of that.
We have discussed it numerous times. There has not been agreement or designation on what the set hours have been. There was community involvement when the spray park hours were set previously, and there has been ongoing discussion as to what they should be going forward. So there's nothing that has been set just yet.
One of the things that I had heard in the past was that one item controlling the hours was the tank size and the time that the sprinklers were on. Is that true?
I mean, yeah, right now we collect the water from the spray park, use it for irrigation at night. And so if you increase the hours, and I have to go back and look at the calculations, but at some point the tank overflows into the creek. And so, I mean, you can put more water into the tank, it'll just overflow into the creek and not be used for irrigation.
So that would have to be part of the consideration of
Correct.
increasing the hours.
Correct.
And then the discussion about the concerts that I'm kind of running through at the gazebo. I would like to make it really clear that RMA is not sponsoring those in any way, and .com has a nice write-up explaining all of that, and thank you for that write-up. But anyway, there's no input from RMA at all. They're not furnishing anything, and there's no funds coming out of RMA to support that activity. Okay.
Okay. End of the report?
Yes, I just wanted to go through the list of events that we have right now for the community to offer. So April 28th, there's a Giants baseball game in San Francisco versus the Dodgers being offered. Sign-ups are here at RMA. On June 2nd, in combination with Kiwanis, we're going to be having a spray park opening celebration. On June 16th, that's the correct date. As I mentioned, we're going to be offering a free movie night. On June 24th, we're going to be offering a Jackson Rancheria bus trip. On August 31st, there's also another trip to the San Francisco Giants ball game. And then on September 15th, we're going to be offering a second CPR course for both kids and adults. Those are the events that we have set as of right now. There's more to come.
Are you ready to publish those dates and
Yes.
post them on,
Those are set.
huh?
Those are set.
Those are set, post them on e-news?
RanchoMuriettaWeb.org.
Do we have what's the cost on the Rancheria? Is there a cost on the Rancheria?
Rancheria bus trip.
What's the date of this one?
It, yeah. We'll get the specific times and
Okay. Is there anything else? All done?
good. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, board member comments. We're gonna go around the table real quick. Look at that. Greg's got the stopwatch ready to go. Does anyone want to kick it off with board? I've got some, but I defer to anybody else who wants to go. Jim, you have any comments?
No, I'm good.
Nope,
Stephanie?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm good.
Joanne? Cheryl?
I'll pass too.
And
Rob? I was saving you for last.
I'm good, thank you.
I think you're doing an excellent job as president.
Oh, jeez. All right. You want to stop? Okay. All right, he's going to start the clock on me. Okay, go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's my idea. Okay. I see. I can count higher than that. A couple of things on my mind, real quick. I know everyone here on the board is serving their first term, so we don't have those long in the tooth veterans on this board. I just think we need like a handbook, like a board member handbook to know how processes work. I think that's something that we should look into doing. I think that sometimes I don't even know what the process is, and I gotta check, and I get confused, but I'm confused easy, so maybe that's just me.
Shall we commission one of the ex-board members that served for many years, write one of those for us?
Well, we can take bids, yeah.
Could you give us an example or two of things that you would see covered in there that I'm just curious as to what, you don't act like you don't know what you're doing. So what is it that's, well, I'm just curious.
So for example, the next item I have is like social, so I want to talk a little bit about addressing social media. How would I go about doing that, right? How would if I'm a board member and I want to know, I want to have RMA get on Facebook, for example. How do I go about doing that? Where do I start? I can go to of course I can go to the GM, but how does the process work at that point, right? Is there a committee I go to? So when you're a new board member, you come in, you've got a little, here's how the board, here's how open session works. Here's what happens, here's how the executive session works. Here's how your committee should work, right? You're the head of this committee, this is how it should work. The processes, and then, go to Greg, you troubleshoot, you go to Greg, or whatever, or if it's Denise, it's Denise. And so you have an idea. I don't know, it'd be handy to say, hey, welcome to the board. Here's your reading. But,
I think it's a good idea.
And there actually is a CAI puts out a publication, and I'll order one of those, and
okay.
or order
So
7 of them.
We have something in print?
Yeah, they do have something in print.
Okay.
Specifically about Facebook, I hear Rush is pretty good about getting in.
Yeah, well, we'll find out about that. And then,
And it depends on what kind of issue on social media, you know, if you're talking about the things as far as what was going on with Greenfield and this and that. We did discuss in the committee, maybe it would be appropriate when that kind of stuff came out, if, you know, we went in there and said, you know, we recommend that you contact Greenfield about your problem, and if you can't resolve it, please come to our committee, something like that, so. I'm not sure that would solve it, you know, but that would be a suggestion.
do I have a timeout I can use?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and what I'll do, Alex, I'll contact our attorney and ask him for a draft policy, and we can run it through Rob's committee, and maybe the board can take a look at it. Okay.
On social
Social media,
stuff?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like us to, I mean, we've been talking about communicating, community outreach, doing a better job of communicating. If we can do that and look at those options, and it'll give Rob something to do. So.
I already pulled
Gotta
some,
get back.
I pulled some policy on social media from different things that I'll get with you, and then we can make a determination. Because you're talking about not just how to utilize social media, but you're talking about governing the use of social media for board members, correct?
Well, for the RMA, I mean, I think it should be centralized.
Okay,
right?
for our, yes, for our.
Correct. So I guess that addressed my second item. We did, you know, and we did have did you want to make a public comment today? Did you come in to?
I came in later, but I have a comment based on what you just said.
You know what, let's start this meeting over again. We'll go to the beginning.
So Patrick Salo again, 1160. So I would agree with you, because as just a community member, it's sort of hard to determine how we govern ourselves. So I think having some kind of document for the community, and you know, we touched on, this was touched on earlier about the committees, right? Just having some of that, even at a high level, for people here in the community would be helpful, especially for those who may be a board member down the road. They know what they're getting into. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you recruiting for board members now?
Thanks for your comments. Okay, so that concludes item 9, and so item 10 is our announcements. We have a Parks Committee meeting 2 days from today on the 22nd, right here in this building at 6:30. Hope to see you all there. And then our next regularly scheduled RMA board meeting is on April 17th, again at 6:30, right here. Thank you for all coming out tonight. We are adjourned.